10 random Magic cards rated, day number 55. Let's see if you watch these during spoiler season. I'm going to keep making them. Here's Reduced to Ashes. First card of the day, everybody. 5 mana, 4 and a red for a sorcery. Reduced to Ashes deals 5 damage to target creature. That creature's going to die this turn. Instead, it goes to exile. This card's not good. It's also sorcery. 5 mana sorcery? Good lord, it's really, really bad. Exile removal you have to respect a little bit, but I'm not going to respect it that much. Do love the burning skeleton art. 14-year-old dev thinks it's really cool, but despite how rad it is, let's just give it like a 2.1. It's not a good Magic card. Shared Fate is up next. Only ever printed in Mirrodin, and it's got a list printing. This is 5 mana, 4 and a blue for an enchantment. If a player would draw a card, that player removes the top card of an opponent's library from the game face down instead. Each player may look at and play cards he or she removed from the game with Shared Fate as though they were in his or her hand. So, you know, yeah, okay, I had to make sure this was like something you had to do. No, you absolutely must. It's not a May effect. So I was trying to remember about Shared Fate. There's like combo setups with this, I know, that people love, but I'm surprised the card's not a little bit more expensive, to be honest with you. But still, Shared Fate is a really, really interesting, like unique effect you're not going to see on like any other card. And it's a little bit annoying, I think, for a lot of players because they wanted to play with their deck and not other people's decks. But you know, it can still be really, really fun. In Commander, even in 1v1s, you could do some weird stuff with it. So, you know, just a bunch of crap. 36 islands. What would it be, like 56 islands and 4 Shared Fates? See what your opponent can do about it. But still, I'm going to give this a honorary 5, I think, because it's so unique. And even though it's not really played very often, it's still an effect you're not going to see anywhere else. So I do like Shared Fate. Next is Semester's End. I like this card more than I'm supposed to. 4 mana, 3 and a white for an instant. Exile any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of your next end step, return each of them to the battlefield under its owner's control. Each of them enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, and an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker. And an additional, that's hard to say for whatever reason. But yeah, I think I was just really tied up when this first came out thinking like, oh, this is going to be up there with Yorion or something. It's not. It's just not. But you can't exile all your dudes, blink them back, and they come back. At the beginning of the next end step, too. So this does save them from sweepers and stuff like that, and I think that's cool. Extra +1/+1 counters is great, you know, if you do, you know, answer a Sunfall or some other 4 or 5 mana sweeper with this, and like you're probably going to win the game. It's effectively a counterspell that also makes your attack better on the next turn. That's so good. So the card is not expensive whatsoever, but I do think it's a card that I'm a little surprised you don't see more often, you know, at least talked about in Commander circles. I think it's pretty good, man. So I'm going to give this a 5.1 just because I've always liked it, dude. I've always liked it a lot. And it's not Yorion or anything, but saves all your dudes at instant speed and they get large. All right, it can save planeswalkers too. Just kind of go. I like it. It's a good card. Swords to Plowshares is up next, everybody. What do you give Swords to Plowshares? I think we've actually already done Swords to Plowshares. We gave it like a 9. Because what else do you give Swords to Plowshares? So Gavony Silversmith is actually up next. 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 2/3 human soldier. When it ETBs, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. So the largest this is ever going to be is a 3/4 when it comes into play for 4 mana. But, you know, you are getting 4 or 5 worth of stats for 4. It's still bad. Maybe it's a human and that's a thing. Maybe in your +1/+1 counter deck it does a thing, but I just think there have to be much better ways to provide synergy to your +1/+1 counter deck. So I'm just going to give it a 2.1. Same thing we gave that awful removal spell. Let's move on to it's Troll Ascetic, isn't it? Yes, it is. Troll Ascetic, a legendary, although not actually legendary, but legendary fabled magic card here. This is 3 mana, 1 and 2 green for a 3/2 troll shaman that can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. That's also known as hexproof. You can also pay 2 mana, that's 1 and a green, to regenerate it. So even if they can find a way to do something about it or they run up against it in combat, it can regenerate, which I think is awesome. If they have a sweeper that destroys all creatures, it can still regenerate. That's so good, dude. Troll Ascetic has a huge place in Magic history, even though no one ever really talks about it anymore. It's not really a card that sees like any play in like any format. I guess like cube. People still like the card in cube. Whether it's simplified cube or just learning the game cube or, hey, check out this Magic history cube. You know, it's going to show up every now and again there. But I feel like no one talks about Troll Ascetic ever anymore. And that's really sad because this card has a real pedigree and has frustrated many people over the years. So I'm going to give Troll Ascetic a 5.6. And I mean it. I love this card, dude. It's just, how do you kill it? Back in the day, you know, what am I supposed to do about that? You die to it. Moving on is planes. All basics get a 5. This art is, it's very sepia toned, you know. Moving on to Eternal Dragon. Ooh, let's go to Scourge. Yeah. This is 7 mana, 5 and 2 white for a 5/5 Dragon Spirit with flying. You can pay 5 mana, that is 3 and 2 white, to return it from your graveyard to your hand. Only do that during your upkeep. It also has plane cycling too. This is another card that has been, you know, destroyed by the passage of time. It's another one that used to annoy people. How do I kill it and all that? Because the control player just has infinite turns to keep getting this back. And the first time, they're going to get it back because they plane cycled it early in the game on turn 2, into your turn, plane cycle this, you know, hit the sweeper, turn after that, return it to my hand, turn after that, I'll play it. Usually when you return it to your hand, you've got counter shields up or removal shields or something like that, you know. So, but even if your opponent can kill it, just return it to your hand. Who cares? This card used to be a real scourge, if you pardon the expression. That's the set it came from, so it's perfectly fitting. But not anymore. But again, I have to respect this card because of the history that it has made. In the short time span it was able to make said history. So, and this is another one that'll show up in cube too, for what it's worth. I feel like I should at least say the words, you know, even if they don't mean much to anyone but me and like 7 people out there, but it's a good cube card. I will give this is a good way to teach newer players about like inevitability, you know, depending on the format. I'm going to give this a 4.8. God, that's hurtful. It's hurtful. It's really hurtful. I don't know, man. Let's give it a 5.3. You know, she plane cycles, and that's good. She comes back. She can plane cycle again later, too. I don't know, 5.3. Sure. Foe-razer Regent is up next from Dragons of Tarkir. This is 7 mana, 5 and 2 green for a 4/5 Dragon with flying. And when it enters the battlefield, you may have it fight a creature you don't control. Whenever a creature you control fights, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it at the beginning of the next end step. It would be really nice if it went ahead and got those counters, but no, I can't do that, right? But this is a large green flyer that is effectively also a removal spell. So I always like this in Dragon's Standard. It really didn't break through. It didn't have much of a presence in that standard, but I liked it. And it did. If you go back in the very early days of the channel, this was in some decks. So I've always liked this card, man. I should maybe get a copy of this for the Mono Green Cube, but I have been finished with Mono Green Cube for like a month now. I just got the last like order of cards in for it, but this makes me want to replace some of the large green flyers with it. It's pretty good, but we'll not order it. I'll resist the temptation to put it on the order sheet. I'm going to give this card, you guys are going to be so mad at the 5s in this one. I'm going to give this one a 5.6. A 5.5. Same level as Troll Ascetic is nowadays. Say something like that, you know. Big green flyer that fights. Let's go. And it's got that fight text on it for your commander deck that fights things. It's pretty good. Up next, we've got Amuleto de Darigaaz. It's actually Darigaaz's charm. This is Jund colors, black, red, green. For an instant, choose one. Return target creature card from your yard to your hand. Or charm deals 3 damage to a creature or player. Or target creature gets +3/+3 till end of turn. So this one is one of the earliest charms from the earliest, not the earliest cycle of charms. I think that's Visions, but this is the earliest cycle of 3-colored charms that I can remember. And this one is literally pay 3 mana for Raise Dead, but you can also pay 3 mana for Incinerate or Lightning Bolt, right? Or you can pay 3 mana for Giant Growth. So these are 3 of the oldest and most iconic cards all wrapped into one. And yeah, you're paying 3 times you would normally pay for those cards, but you're paying for the versatility here. This is a good card. All the old charms are still pretty decent. This one has a massive spread of playability on it. You know, you need a guy back, sure. You need to kill something, sure. You need a combat trick, sure. Just really sweet 3 different cards to have on one card. So I don't know if it's still worth paying 3 mana for your Raise Dead, but at least it converts it to instant speed. Hey, you know, so I don't know. I do like these. I like pretty much any and all of these. This is another good cube thing right here, but I'm going to go ahead and throw this like a 5.8. I really am. Versatility is really, really important. We'll move on to Regal Caracal. Regal Caracal. This is 5 mana, 3. Why did I sound like Bill Burr for a second? Regal Caracal. Billy Blue Balls with Regal Caracal. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white for a 3/3 cat. Other cats you control get +1/+1 and have the lifelink. When Regal Caracal enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with the lifelink. So you get 5 total power and stats on 3 bodies. Actually, it's 7 total power and stats on 3 bodies, 2 of which have lifelink. It's super duper blinkable. You know, it's still in everyone's cat deck. It's still in a lot of people's tokens decks in Commander. Just a wonderful card. It is in the cat cube. Very cubey video today, but yeah, this is already in the cat cube. And it's good to see that it's actually calmed down a bit in terms of price. This was like $4 at a point, and now it's less than $1. So awesome. Get a couple more copies of Caracal because I've got decks for it, man. I've got cubes beyond cat cube. This card should go in. So I just really, I'm going to like this card. It's cats, but it's also kind of in some ways one of the better cat cards ever printed. You get an anthem effect on it too. It's so good. So I'm going to give Regal Caracal a 6.3. And you can't stop me. I'm all the way over here. I've already uploaded the video. You can't stop me. Let's move on to the final card of the day. It is Field of the Dead. Wow, what a knockout, dude. Banned in Pioneer, Modern, Explorer, Historic, and Brawl. This is a land that ETB's tapped and taps for colorless. But whenever it or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So we got a land with landfall that makes dudes so long as you have a billion lands in play. It doesn't look that great, right? It's just taps for colors and it ETB's taps. It's garbage, right? No, this is one of the better cards they literally ever printed. It seriously is, man. Goodness gracious. There was a time when even in standard, this would fill the board with like 10 zombies fairly quickly. And in other formats, it's even more degenerate than that. Pretty amazing. This is legal in Commander, to be honest. Even with all the formats it's banned in, it's still $40, really like $36 to take home the cheapest version of this, which is Core Set Promo. That's it. Huh. Interesting. Somehow find that hard to believe. But yeah, Field of the Dead. What do you give this? All right, so I get to ask the audience once a day. This is a good one. What do you rate Field of the Dead? I'm pretty sure we won't get a huge spread here. I think we'll get anywhere from like, 7-ish because it requires a lot of setup and it goes in its own deck and it's a little bit narrow. You can't just throw it in anything. It only makes colorless mana. ETB's tapped, blah, 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 blah. I've never seen the card before in my life, so it's 3. Whoever, maybe there will be like one outlier. But we might get all the way up to like 9.5 on this. We really might because it is that good of a Magic card. I'm going to give Field of the Dead an 8.666. How about that? 8.666 for Field of the Dead. I wonder how that stacks up to your rating in the comments section. But boy, way to end with a bang today. Bet you didn't think I was coming on to do this today. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I can't promise you that. What if I get sick? I'll probably still be doing this from the hospital bed. In any case, love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.